what happened in 2005 when we looked at C4A, it was obvious that this was a marker that was very important, but was not specific to mold or to Lyme. There are many other illnesses that made it go up, and then it goes back to this idea that we're not diagnosing any of these illnesses based on one test. We are looking at the differential diagnosis. This is what physicians have compared to the general populace, is our training and skill in differential diagnosis. What made it easier to look at physiologic effects of C4A was the development of MR spectroscopy in our little town of Salisbury. Specifically, with MR, we can measure the amount of NAA, that's the N-acetyl acetate or aspartate, which is a marker of white matter disease. We can look at creatine, which is a control measure and cell mass measure. We can look at choline, acetylcholine. We can look at myoinositol, an indicator of glial cell injury. We also look at lactate, and then we look at the relationship of glutamate, which is an excitatory compound, to glutamine, which is an inhibitory compound. And what we found with MR spectroscopy is that this whole idea of capillary hypoperfusion is reduced oxygen delivery, reduced mitochondrial function. As a result, we should see a rise in lactate. And the rise of lactate is in a capillary basis. We can't measure that anywhere that way, anywhere else in the body, and that's exactly what we saw. We also saw, especially for people who had brain fog and confusion and memory problems, that they primarily had suppression of the ratio of excitatory glutamate to inhibitory glutamine. So not enough oxygen, the nerve cell doesn't work right. What we also found is that by selectively correcting C4A with Procrit, erythropoietin. Now, erythropoietin in high doses raises red blood counts, certainly is used in renal dialysis people and anemic patients. In the HIV population, where anemia is treated with Procrit, we don't have any clotting abnormalities at all. HIV is a real heavily cytokine-dominated illness. In people with renal failure and head and neck cancer, there is excessive clotting that does occur with Procrit. And just as I'm working with Procrit from 2004 to 2006, out comes a report that people had billed Medicare for over $5 billion for Procrit in 2005. In March of 2006, the FDA, quoting old data, released a black box warning about use of Procrit, and expenditures for Procrit for Medicare fell from $5 billion in 2005 to $1 billion in 2006. It continues to fall. My concern is that the data cited for fear of Procrit are old. It's nothing new. We've known about potential clotting abnormalities with Procrit, but we also know that Procrit has fantastic benefit in tissue remodeling. So if you look at cardiac remodeling on a PubMed search and an erythropoietin, it lights up like crazy. If we look at neuro remodeling and erythropoietin, especially with Parkinson's disease, that lights up like crazy as well. Needless to say, when I asked the Michael J. Fox Foundation for a chance to have a study funded using C4A reduction with Procrit, I thought that would be funded. It was a great idea. And it was rejected within a couple